welcome to the latest edition of Cooking with Katie from Cookery Doodle Doo. I've got a recipe to share with you today that's very close to my heart. I first started baking at my grandma's side. She looked after me quite a lot when I was little, and there is a recipe that we made together over and over and over again, right through my childhood, right through my teens and my 20s until she died when I was about 21, 22. And this recipe is one I've never been able to recreate properly. The proper one kind of died with her, I don't remember it. But I've worked and I've really tried to refine it, and this is about as close as I think I'm going to be able to get. So I loved this as a kid, it's really sentimental to me, and I really hope you're going to enjoy making this with me. So here we go, we've got a bowl of flour here. This is plain flour, and I've got 70 grams, okay, 70 grams of plain flour in here, and we're going to add some baking powder. You don't want to accidentally add too much baking powder because you can taste it if you put too much in. So it's half a teaspoon, but make sure it's very level, and perhaps even put in just a little bit less than half just to make sure. Okay, so that goes in. And to that we're going to add the ginger. If you don't have any ginger, you could use cinnamon instead, or you could just leave it out if you wanted to, but these were known as ginger biscuits in my house, so this is what we're making. So I've got some ground ginger and I've got a quarter teaspoon measure here. Obviously I've said before, if you don't have half and quarter teaspoon measures, then I bet you've got a medicine spoon. The smaller end of that is a half teaspoon, so use that for your baking powder, and then about half of that for the ginger. Okay, so the ginger goes in. And then I've got here 35 grams of caster sugar, so that goes in as well. Okay, and all we're going to do is just stir those things together. And my ginger's gone a little bit lumpy, so I'm just going to keep an eye out. And if I see any little lumps of ginger, then obviously I'll just go with a little splat with my spoon. There's one there. Just to make sure that's mixed through thoroughly. Okay, so that's the dry mixture done. I'm just going to pop that to one side. And in a bowl here, I've got 35 grams of melted butter. Okay, this is still quite hot. I've had this in the microwave to melt, and it's still quite warm. Obviously I don't want anyone to burn themselves, so please be careful. But the reason this is warm is it just helps the golden syrup that we're about to put in, helps it to dissolve slightly and soften. Right, so I'm just going to measure this in by weight, this golden syrup. If you don't have digital scales, then I would just get a tablespoon and do a really heat tablespoon. And a trick for that, if you dip it into the butter first or spray a bit of oil onto it, then the golden syrup will slide straight off your measuring spoon again if it's a metal one, so that will just help you measure. But obviously it's a lot less messy if you do have some digital scales. And we're just going to put in 30 grams. There we go. And give that a good mix together. The golden syrup itself is quite hard to mix through flour, so just putting it in with that warm butter will just help soften it a little bit. You're unlikely to be able to get them to mix together properly. That will do. I seem to have ended up with 2 wooden spoons here, so I'll just put that one to one side. And I'm just going to tip the syrup and butter in with our dry mixture. Okay, and then that just gets a really good mix together. You can see the more I stir, the cleaner the bowl begins to look, and it all seems to stick together. That's exactly what we want, okay? Once we've got to that point, My hands are clean. I hope yours are. If they're not, go and give them a good wash now, because we're going to get our hands in there. So if you've sneezed while you've been cooking this, go and give them another wash. Okay, and all I'm going to do is just get my hands in there and just give it a bit of a squidge, just to finish bringing that together. There we go. Okay, so here's my dough. We're going to make 8 biscuits, so we're going to do some fractions now. So let's just have a look at this dough. Okay, so these are genuine home videos. This would have tickled my grandma no end and made her laugh, but the washing machine was on in the background and that got so loud that we decided to pause. So we're back. Join me with the dough. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do some fractions. So those of you who are old enough will recognise these. Those of you who don't do many fractions yet, this is how we learn. So, really practical way. We're going to cut this in half, okay, into 2 bits. There we go. So half means 2, and our dough's in 2 bits. Okay. We're going to cut those in half again, okay? So those 2 bits make 2 bits, which gives us 4 bits. These are quarters, okay? We're going to go one more time again to give us 8 bits, okay? So each of these 4 bits are going to go in half. And that gives us 8 bits that are about the same size, okay? So, just going to roll them together in my hands, just to round them off. And what we want to end up with is basically like a little fat disc. So roll it into a ball and then just flatten it slightly, okay? I've got a tray here. You can use baking parchment, or if you've got a silicone mat like me, then great. Or if not, then just grease it with some oil or a little bit of melted butter or something. And we're going to spread these out because they do spread out quite a lot when they bake. So we're going to space them out. Make sure they've got room to grow. Okay, but little hands can definitely help with this. It's quite a skill learning to roll your 2 hands in the opposite directions. If you're finding that too hard, you can actually just do it on the table and go round and round like that. I find it easier in my hands. If they fall apart a bit, if they're a bit crumbly, just squidge them back together again. There we go. You don't need to be perfect. The recipe Grandma used to follow, the size of the batch was enormous. It probably about 4 times this, if not more. I always had trouble stopping myself from eating them, so I have cut it down just to try and help myself and you guys. But obviously you could easily double it. Or quadruple it. But maybe not if it's just one family in lockdown at the moment. There we go. So those are our 8 biscuits pretty much done. Just make sure I don't leave any dough behind. And these are going to go into the oven. They don't take very long to cook at all. So they're going to go in on 180 degrees. And they're probably only going to take about 8 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to put the timer on for 8 and then I'll just have a quick check and see how they're doing. These burn quite easily because there's quite high sugar content with the syrup and the sugar. So you do need to keep an eye on them. But about 8 minutes and we'll have a look. And if they need a little bit longer, then it'll be 10. Okay, so the timer's just gone off. These have had 8 minutes. I've had a quick peek and I think they're ready. So let's have a look. There we go. So what we've got here, they've puffed up, they've expanded and risen. The tops are quite cracked and the edges are nice and golden, so you can see those are cooked. These are very soft at the moment. What they'll do is firm up and go crunchy as they cool, so you need to leave them on that tray and don't touch them for at least probably 10 minutes, and then when they've cooled a bit and firmed up a bit, you can move them onto a wire rack to finish cooling. So there we go. I really hope you enjoy them. These dunk in a cup of tea beautifully, so please try at least one like that, and I just hope you love them as much as I do. Cheers, Grandma.